So today we're going to do an agent tier list. Now I haven't done one of these in a very long time, and I'm sure many of you will disagree where I'm going to put some of these agents, so let me know in the comments down below. Have your little arguments between people, because people love to argue about this stuff, even though it means absolutely nothing. But let's dive into it. Now, just to give you a quick idea on where some of the pick rates of some of the agents are, here are the America's pick rates. I've picked America's because they tend to be the most boring region in terms of innovative comps and whatnot. So you see Omen way out, way out in front. And then, you know, you've got your Killjoy, Viper, Sova. Quite a few agents kind of in this next tier, you know, familiar faces of agents that are generally kind of up there. And then we move towards the bottom, and you can see, again, some familiar faces here down towards the bottom as well. Now, I will be rating these agents based on how good I think they are in pro play. This is not for ranked, but my overall impression of the agents in high-level play. So let's talk about it then. And the way I would view the tiers is S tier is like you probably need, you know, some kind of nerf. Maybe not massive nerfs, but, you know, some kind of nerf. We'll get into that. And D tier is like you probably need some buff, but also you could need some changes in A, B, and C as well. We'll get into that with some of the agents. So Harbor is first. We've got a lot of agents to get through, so I'll try and be as quick as I can. Harbor, I think is just kind of to be honest. I think Harbor is kind of... I'm going to put him in C tier for now. This might change, obviously, as we add more in, and I realize that Harbor might be better or worse, but let's start with C tier there. Chamber, who actually had a 0% pick rate there, as you saw in America's. I don't think the Chamber is completely useless, though. I think Chamber is okay. Not amazing. Okay. I'm going to also put Chamber in the C tier as well. I think ISO. Okay. ISO is a good example of an agent that is going to end up in the middle of this list, most likely, but could use with changes. Because I think the ISO ult in high-level play is just kind of wrong, and it shouldn't be a 7-cost ult. I would personally like to see it be like a 9-cost ult, to be honest. But obviously, to make up for that nerf, you know, you bring in like a buff to like the wall thing, you know, that's completely useless. So I would like to see, you know, some changes to ISO, but I think ISO overall kind of balanced out probably like a B tier agent where, you know, he's not useless, but he's not the best, but the ult I think is a bit of a problem. Phoenix, who is always down there in terms of pick rate as well, but I personally don't think that Phoenix is useless either. His place in the game has always been a little frayed ever since KO came in, for me, just because Phoenix, I think, is just a worse KO in general when it comes to high-level play. But I don't actually think that Phoenix is completely useless, so I'm also going to put Phoenix in the C tier. Again, that might change, but I will put Phoenix in the C tier for now. KO, good, solid agent. We can probably, most of us agree on that. I'm going to put KO in the A tier, just a good agent. Skye, now Skye is an interesting one. Used to be in the S tier. Where do I put Skye? I'm not really a Skye believer, to be honest. And even on maps like Bind, of course, we've seen quite a few teams now, you know, even on Skye's kind of home map, run away from the Skye, you know, in favor of like Gecko Fade kind of stuff, 100 Thieves kind of comp in there instead. And also with Split rotating out now as well, Skye's position in the meta is probably really not that good. Skye's still not useless. I'm going to put Skye in the C tier, though. I think high C tier, somewhere in there. Okay, Viper. Now, Viper, if you have watched this channel for any amount of time, really, you'll know that I have always been on the Viper is completely broken train. And you just don't realize how broken Viper actually was, and in my opinion still kind of is. The Viper nerfs did impact Viper very much so. I still think that Viper provides so much value, personally. So I'm still going to put Viper in the S tier. I know some of you might disagree with that, but that is my personal opinion. Cypher. Now, we have seen on certain maps that, you know, the Cypher pick rate has started to increase, I think, across, you know, kind of globally. We're seeing, I think, more Cypher on Ascent. We're seeing Cypher on Haven quite a lot as well in these recent weeks. It seems like Abyss, from the games we've seen, everyone's played Cypher. So definitely seems like Cypher is kind of on the rise right now. And I do think that Cypher is very good. S tier, I'm not going to go that far, but I think high A tier. Definitely for Cypher right now. Neon, obviously the Neon buffs have come in. Neon is going to be a big mover on this list as well. We have seen some teams picking up the Neon and finding some success with it, of course. I mean, I do think that the buffs did help, but I don't think Neon is crazy or anything. I think I'm just going to put Neon in the B tier as well. Deadlock. Okay, now I just made a video on Sentinel's Deadlock and how their Deadlock wasn't working, and some of the things that I didn't really necessarily like that they did with Deadlock. Does that mean that I think that Deadlock is a completely useless agent? No. I do think that Deadlock isn't completely useless. I don't think Deadlock is good, so I'm going to put Deadlock in the C tier, I think. I'm going to put Deadlock above Chamber, I think, though, here in the C tier. Sage, another agent that, you know, obviously on Icebox, Sage sees quite a bit of play. Sunset as well, you know, teams like Paper Rex might play it, but otherwise not too much Sage out there. But I think Sage, again, is I might just put Sage slightly above Deadlock, to be honest. Just in that slot slightly above Deadlock, where it's a niche pick that is okay on, like, Icebox. I actually think that Sage could be pretty good on Abyss, but that's just me. Okay, Raze. Interesting one. Raze. Is Raze, obviously after the nerfs, is Raze still an S tier agent? Again, the way that I view the game and what I think is important in the game, which I'll just briefly explain now, why not, right, is I think that stopping power, stopping your opponent from being able to get into a place, and the ability of information, I think that those two are kind of the main things in pro play. Information and stopping power. And also the things, the kind of inverse of that, right? Like being able to negate stopping power and being able to negate information. So like smokes would be negate of information, right? Raze is really good. You know, Raze gets information, denies stopping power, and has stopping power. That makes an agent pretty good in my opinion. So I'm still going to put Raze in the S tier because I still think that that's just a really good abilities to have in pro play. Fade. I think, again, we're probably with a lot of the initiators, I would assume the initiators are just pretty good. And so I think I'm just going to put Fade in like low A tier. It's pretty good. Yoru. Now, I've been a big Yoru fan for a long time. I've always thought that Yoru basically was always a vastly underrated agent just because Yoru was hard to play. I think if you know, had a good Yoru, and we have started to see this year, I think in particular, you know, quite a few Yoru games where you go, wow, the value that they got from that agent in this game was massive. And that's what I'm basing it off, that if you do put the time into Yoru, you can get a lot of value from this agent. And so I'm going to put Yoru in the A tier, I think. Not quite S tier, but I think I'm going to put Yoru in the A tier. I'll put it just below Fade. Sova. Again, you could argue that Sova might be S tier, but I'm not going to quite put Sova in the S tier. I think I'm just going to stick in the A tier, but definitely, obviously, a very good agent. Astra. Now, interesting one. Astra, I think, is in one of those instances where, even though Astra's pick rate is like 0% in like a lot of regions and whatever, and no one really is playing Astra anymore, does that mean that Astra is herself that bad? In my opinion, Astra isn't that bad. The problem is that you just have someone who does the exact same role, but just does it a lot better, right? But that doesn't mean that you're bad. It just means that there's a much better option to pick. That's not saying that Astra is good, though. I do hope for an Astra buff, but I don't think Astra is D tier, because I think if you subbed in Astra for Omen, like, you could still get value from it. In fact, watching Fnatic play Sunset with Astra, they do find value from Astra. So I'm going to put Astra in the C tier still, because I don't think Astra is useless. I just think there's a better option. Breach. Now, here's another one for you. Another one where I have been known to be a bit of a Breach hater. The win rate data is a bit of a Breach hater. I don't think that Breach is completely useless or anything. I just think that Viper kind of counters Breach pretty hard, and Viper is good. And you should play Viper instead of Breach. But Breach, I still think it's like a B tier agent overall. Brim. Brim's an interesting one because Brim kind of does his job on certain maps like Bind and Fracture fine, but just can't see play anywhere else because of the way the game works. So I guess that makes you like a B tier agent because he does do his job fine, I guess. Now, Jett. Here's an interesting one because I've always been a bit of a Jett hater as well. You know, I've always said, like, you know, Jett is just the basic men's Valorant version of Yoru. Right, that if you really wanted to find value, you'd play Yoru instead of Jett, but everyone just mastered Jett early on when Jett was OP, and that means that everyone has kind of stuck with Jett since. I still kind of am on that train. That's not to say that I think Jett is useless or bad, but I'm going to stick to my guns here, and I'm going to put Jett in the B tier, because I think that Jett is fine, but I think at a high level, there are better things than Jett. Killjoy. Killjoy's just pretty good. I think Killjoy's just in this kind of A tier, just pretty good. Omen. Now, obviously, you saw Omen's pick rate at the start, so this will surprise none of you, I'm sure, that Omen is going to the top of the list. Omen definitely needs a nerf. If you're asking me what nerf should Omen get, I would say definitely something needs to change with the paranoia, because it's just like the best ability in the game. You might want to also change like the smoke, like how far you can put it away from you, right? So like the smoke, if the range was really decreased on the smokes, that would at least give like Astra a clear like position in the game of, oh, Astra can smoke anywhere, but Omen is much more limited, you know, if it was like more like Brim and Clove and whatnot. I think that would help as well, because obviously Omen has the benefit of like the one ways that Omen can do that no one else can. I think restricting the range would be, in my opinion, quite a good idea. Gecko. Now this is an interesting one as well, and I'm sure some of you will probably debate, is Gecko an S tier agent? And I think, like, again, in my world of like thinking about what I think is good in an agent, I think being able to use your flash and wingman over and over and over again is an extremely strong capability for Gecko. So I you know what, I'm going to go, even though again people might disagree with this, I could definitely see, you know, for putting Gecko in A, but I think that theoretically I think that Gecko is an S tier agent, just because the reusable flashes and wingman 10 seconds over and over again is just kind of crazy strong. And then Reyna, we have no one in the D tier yet. Well, we will now, because Reyna's still going in the D tier. It's not that Reyna doesn't give you anything, but I still don't think it's kind of worth it, and I think you probably should just play ISO instead, really. And then Clove. Now, I made a video about Clove and how useless I think Clove is in pro play. So you know where I'm going to put Clove if you watch that video. I'm going to put Clove at the bottom of the list. And some of you will disagree with me, and I don't care.